Stop waiting for some big moment to prove you're healed. The truth is, you've already come further than you think, and I'm going to show you exactly how to see it. Look, I get it. You've been working on yourself. Maybe you've been through therapy, read the books, done the journaling, tried to fix what's broken inside. And still, you wake up some days feeling like you haven't made any progress at all. Like you're stuck in the same patterns, the same struggles, the same version of yourself you've been trying to leave behind. But here's what nobody tells you about healing. It doesn't always feel like healing when it's happening. You don't get a certificate in the mail. There's no finish line with confetti and cheering crowds. Most of the time, healing is quiet. It's subtle. It shows up in small ways that you barely notice because you're too busy looking for the big transformation. Today, I'm going to walk you through 7 signs that prove you've healed way more than you realize. And I promise you, by the end of this, you're going to see yourself differently. The biggest problem with healing is that we don't know how to measure it. Think about it. When you're learning a new skill, you can see progress. You learn guitar, you can play a song. You lift weights, you get stronger. But emotional healing? That's invisible. It happens inside where nobody can see it, including you. So what happens is we keep moving the goalposts. We tell ourselves we'll be healed when we stop feeling anxious, when we stop overthinking, when we finally feel confident all the time. And because we never hit that impossible standard, we convince ourselves we're not making progress. But that's not how healing works. Healing isn't about becoming perfect. It's not about never struggling again. It's about how you respond when life gets hard. It's about the relationship you have with yourself when things fall apart. And that's exactly what these 7 signs are going to show you. Let me ask you something. Think back to a situation that would have destroyed you a year ago. Maybe it was someone criticizing you. Maybe it was being left unread. Maybe it was a small mistake at work. Now think about the last time something similar happened. Did you spiral the same way? Did you lose sleep for 3 days straight? Did you question your entire existence? Probably not. And that right there is healing. You might not have noticed it because you were focused on the fact that you still felt something. But feeling something is normal. Being human means having emotions. The difference is you didn't let it consume you. You didn't make up stories about what it meant. You didn't turn one bad moment into evidence that your whole life is falling apart. When you've healed, your nervous system doesn't go into panic mode over everything. You can sit with discomfort without needing to fix it immediately. You can have a bad day without convincing yourself you're a bad person. That's not small progress. That's huge. This one hits different, because for a long time, being alone probably felt like punishment, like something was wrong with you if you weren't constantly surrounded by people or in a relationship or making plans every weekend. But now you can sit in silence without feeling like you need to fill it. You can spend a Saturday night by yourself and not feel like you're missing out. You can be in your own company without immediately reaching for your phone to distract yourself from your thoughts. And this doesn't mean you've become antisocial or that you don't value relationships. It means you've stopped running from yourself. You've stopped needing other people to validate your existence or prove that you're worthy of love. When you can be alone without feeling lonely, that's when you know you've built a relationship with yourself. That's when you know you've stopped abandoning yourself. Every time things get uncomfortable, you've become your own safe place. And that's one of the most powerful signs of healing there is. Remember when saying no felt impossible? When you'd rather suffer in silence than disappoint someone? When you'd overextend yourself into exhaustion just to avoid conflict? Now think about the last time you said no to something. Maybe you declined an invitation because you needed rest. Maybe you told someone their behavior wasn't okay. Maybe you removed yourself from a conversation that was draining your energy. And here's the key part. You did it without spending the next 3 days overthinking it. You didn't write a paragraph explanation. You didn't apologize 5 times. You just set the boundary and moved on with your life. That's healing, because boundaries aren't about being mean or selfish. They're about respecting yourself enough to protect your peace. And when you can do that without carrying guilt around like a heavy backpack, you've made serious progress. The old version of you believed that love meant sacrificing yourself, that being a good person meant always being available, that your needs mattered less than everyone else's, but you don't believe that anymore. You've learned that you can be kind and still have limits. You can care about people and still put yourself first sometimes. That's not selfish. That's self-respect. This is a big one, because if you're someone who's been through trauma or pain, control probably became your safety mechanism. You tried to control outcomes, people's opinions, future scenarios, anything to avoid getting hurt again. But control is exhausting. It's like holding your breath underwater, thinking that if you just hold it long enough, you'll never have to come up for air. Eventually you have to let go. And you have. Maybe you didn't notice, but you've started accepting uncertainty. You make plans without needing to know exactly how everything will turn out. You let conversations unfold without scripting every word in your head first. You take risks even though you can't guarantee the outcome. You've realized that trying to control everything doesn't protect you from pain. It just stops you from living. So you've loosened your grip. You've started trusting that you can handle whatever comes your way, even if it's not what you planned, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's hard. That trust in yourself, that's healing. That's you knowing deep down that you're capable of getting through things, even when they don't go perfectly. You don't need to control the whole world anymore because you finally trust yourself to navigate it. There was probably a time when you needed answers. You needed the person who hurt you to admit what they did, to apologize, to explain why. You thought that if they just acknowledged your pain, you could finally move on. But here's what you've learned. Closure is not something someone else gives you. It's something you give yourself. You've stopped waiting for apologies that may never come. You've stopped replaying conversations in your head, trying to figure out what you could have said differently. You've stopped checking their social media to see if they're doing better without you. You've stopped needing their validation to know that what you experienced was real. You've realized that some people will never understand the pain they caused. Some people will never take accountability. Some people will rewrite history to make themselves the victim. And you know what? That's on them, not you. You've taken your power back by refusing to let their lack of acknowledgement keep you stuck. You've given yourself the closure they couldn't provide. You've decided that your healing doesn't depend on their participation. And that's one of the most mature, powerful things you can do. You used to measure yourself against some impossible standard. You'd look at where you wanted to be and feel like a failure. Because you weren't there yet. Every small step forward felt insignificant compared to the mountain you still had to climb. But something's shifted. Now you actually acknowledge your wins. You notice when you handle something better than you used to. You give yourself credit for showing up even when it's hard. You recognize that progress isn't always dramatic, and that's okay. You've stopped treating your healing like a race you're losing. You've started treating it like a journey you're actually on. And that shift in perspective changes everything. Because when you can celebrate the small moments, when you can appreciate how far you've come instead of obsessing over how far you have to go, you create momentum. You build confidence. You prove to yourself that you're capable of change. And that makes the next step easier. You're not perfect. You're not healed in every single area of your life. But you're different than you were. And you've finally learned to honor that. This might be the biggest sign of all, because for a long time you probably hated the person you used to be. You were angry at yourself for staying too long, for ignoring red flags, for not knowing better. You looked back at your past decisions with shame and disgust. But now you understand. You see that past version of yourself not as weak or stupid, but as someone who was doing the best they could with what they had. Someone who was hurting and just trying to survive. Someone who deserved kindness, not cruelty. You've stopped punishing yourself for not knowing things you hadn't learned yet. You've stopped blaming yourself for being human. You've started talking to yourself the way you talk to a friend going through the same thing. And this compassion isn't just about the past. It extends to the present too. When you mess up now, you don't spiral into self-hatred. You acknowledge the mistake, learn from it, and move forward. You treat yourself like someone worthy of grace. That's healing. When you can look at every version of yourself, past and present, with understanding and kindness, you've done the deep work. You've broken the cycle of self-abandonment. You've become the safe person you always needed. So here's the thing. You've been so focused on what's still broken that you haven't stopped to notice what's been repaired. You've been so busy looking for proof that you're not enough that you missed all the evidence showing you've become more than you ever thought possible. Healing doesn't look like never struggling. It looks like struggling differently. It looks like having hard days but not letting them define you. It looks like falling down and getting back up a little faster each time. It looks like being kinder to yourself when you're at your lowest. You've been waiting for permission to believe you've made progress. You've been waiting for someone to tell you it's okay to be proud of yourself. So let me be that person. You've healed more than you realize. You've grown in ways you can't even see yet. You've become someone your past self would be proud of. And the best part, you're not done. You're still going. Still learning, still evolving. But now you know how to recognize your progress. Now you know how to give yourself credit. Now you know that healing isn't about reaching some final destination. It's about who you're becoming along the way. Look, I know this journey hasn't been easy. I know there are days when you still feel like you're back at square one. But you're not. You're miles ahead of where you started, even if it doesn't always feel that way. These 7 signs aren't just random observations. They're proof. Proof that you're doing the work. Proof that you're changing. Proof that healing is happening, even in the quiet moments when you can't see it. So the next time you doubt yourself, come back to this. Remember that you don't react the same way anymore. Remember that you're okay being alone. Remember that you set boundaries without guilt. Remember that you've stopped trying to control everything. Remember that you don't need closure from people who hurt you. Remember that you celebrate your progress. Remember that you have compassion for who you used to be. That's not nothing. That's everything. You're not waiting to be healed anymore. You're already healing, and that's exactly where you need to be. If this helped you see yourself differently, watch the next video.